Hello and welcome to your last class before you begin your final phase, student teaching. Today I wanted to address some points to ponder as you complete this course. Ask your cooperating teacher on these thoughts and reflect on them throughout your student teaching semester. Public schools, intimidating, demanding, and rewarding. Teaching is a demanding, time-consuming, and often thankless job. We know that this career isn't for the faint-hearted, and we understand that it is not going to be easy, but it's worth it if you're passionate about education. Laying the framework for improving publicity funding education systems and promoting the universal public education and teacher training in the normal school was created by Horace Mann. Schooling in the late 18th and 19th centuries was often irregularly managed. His dissatisfaction with public education began with his own schooling as a boy. He was educated by his parents, siblings, and oftentimes by himself. A determined individual and focused to teach himself the content and skills needed to pursue higher education, understanding the daily struggles of the economically disadvantaged groups of society, and believing that public schooling would become the most effective way to good citizenship, democratic participation, and societal well-being. Mann really pushed to have an improved education system. He was influential in the development of teacher training schools and the earliest attempts to professionalize teaching. He knew that the quality of rural schools had to be raised and that teaching was the key to the improvement. He also recognized that a group of teachers for the new common schools were most likely women, and he fought for the recruitment of women into the ranks of teachers, often through the normal schools. These developments were all part of Mann's driving determination to create a system of effective, secular, universal education in the United States. He developed 6 main influential principles regarding public education. 1. Citizens cannot maintain both ignorance and freedom. 2. The education should be paid for, controlled, and maintained by the public. And 3. This education should be provided in schools that embrace children from varying backgrounds. 4. This education must be non-sectarian. 5. The education must be taught using tenets of free society. And finally, the education must be provided by well-trained professional teachers. So how does this affect you? Think about how much easier this could have been accomplished with the accessibility to highly trained educators. The demographics of the classrooms are changing, with more students speaking English as a second language. New state and federal accountability standards are placed, increasing demands on teachers. What makes someone qualified to be a teacher, and more importantly, an excellent teacher? Some believe that years of real-world experiences are needed. Others think that graduating from a teacher education program does the job. Still, others think that simply passing a test is enough to demonstrate that someone is qualified. There is a concern and frustration with shifting policies as a high focus on state and district level testing. Oftentimes, teachers feel that they need to teach to the test, spending too much time preparing students for these tests instead of their own curriculum. In K-12 public education, educators themselves must pass the pre-professional standardized test and receive a license in the age group and subject area in which you want to teach. Now, we as teachers, or soon-to-be teachers, we are in need to step up our game in order to see public education flourish. Expectations are being placed on teachers to complete master's degrees in education or attend other state-approved programs. Perhaps the best place to start when considering what qualifies someone to be an educator is the simple debate between whether teachers should major in education or the subjects they intend to teach. The National Council for Accreditation of Teacher Education, otherwise known as NCATE, believes that both rich subject area knowledge and understanding of how to teach are necessary for successful teaching. Considering all the skills and knowledge that a teacher needs prior to entering the classroom opens a window into the complexity of this debate. Here's a look of possible things teachers could learn and should learn before entering the classroom, ranked in order of importance and looking at how this knowledge might be obtained. So, I've created the top 10 teacher training needs, the demands of teaching. Number 1, we need to know how to teach to be an effective educator. I feel like this is one of the most important things, yet it's most often undervalued. Can you explain how to tie a shoe? That may sound easy, but asking someone to explain the process to you and do exactly what he or she tells you and see how well the shoe gets tied. Instructing is an art and a science. It is about intangible feelings for a situation melded with having a comprehensive view of where the learning should go and how to get there. It is both a process and a constant evaluation of that process. One game I like to do with some teachers is have them sit back to back, and I will tell one person that they need to describe how to fold a paper airplane, but not say what they're doing. So they're sitting back to back, and they're telling that other person behind them how to fold a paper airplane. It's very interesting and fun to see how that turns out. Number 2, how to learn. If you know how to teach and know how to learn, you can teach almost anything given some time, motivation, and support. While there certainly are some things like quantitative physics that someone with a general science education degree could not teach easily, there is very little that an educated individual with a science background could not teach in high school if given the resources and support to learn it. Knowing how to learn is an incredible important skill for many teachers to possess. Number 3, what to teach. Subject matter. At least the basics is extremely important, as the background knowledge forms the basis for all of future learnings in that area. Really, everyone should have a basic understanding of everything in order to function and contribute to our society. For someone who can research and learn and has a basic background in a subject, any specific topic that needs to be taught can be researched and with some planning taught effectively, especially in the day of the internet. Number 4, how to design instruction. Returning to that idea of knowing how to teach is more important than knowing what to teach. The design of sound lessons, enrichment activities, and evaluation piece is the top-level skill that all educators should have and do develop in their specific educational method classes. Number 5, how to manage a classroom. This may seem unimportant, but those of you that have been in the front lines, like my colleagues, knowing the skills of successfully navigating the minefields of diverse, disinterested, technology in their face type students, sometimes hostile, dealing with the student population is essential. This is an entire discipline of its own that includes elements of psychology, counseling, discipline, self-confidence, training, and many other subtle arts. How to advocate for students is number 6. In a world that's increasingly in a world that increasingly devalues education and children's importance in the world, knowing how to be an advocate for the individual child who comes to school hungry, or all of the students in an underfunded classroom is a skill that is essential, but seldom taught in any program. Most often, it is something that must be learned on the fly as issues are encountered, but could be taught as part of teacher education. Number 7, how to advocate for ourselves. We are constantly beaten down by society that does not understand what we do and the challenges that we face, or the requirements and chores that have to be forced on us. Some people say, oh, you have 3 months off. Well, sometimes you need to have that time off to take care of the goose to produce the golden egg. So, between accountability of our students who are failing and the need to teach personal hygiene and advocate for students with home life problems, teachers must often keep their mouths shut and take everything that is forced on them. They rarely, if ever, advocate for themselves, despite a strong union and the misconception that they are coddled. Number 8, to engage parents in the learning process. One of the most important contributions to student success is parental involvement in the learning process. The best teachers instinctively reach out to parents and know how to draw them into conversations about their child's learning. Too many educators do not, and this is a skill that is rarely taught taught at all in teacher education programs, and definitely not elsewhere. Number 9, obtaining funds for basic classroom needs. Much like advocating for our students, teachers need to know that there are opportunities available outside the normal channels for acquiring supplies, technology, and expert contributions to the classroom. Grant writing, schmoozing, fundraisers. These are all activities that are not customarily thought of as pertaining to teachers, but with continuing education fundings cut, someone needs to provide the resources that can enrich student learning and prepare them for the 21st century. Excuse me. And finally, how to inspire and motivate learners. This is probably should have been further up on the list, but it rounds it out nicely as a skill that is inherent for some educators, but one that is also taught in teacher prep programs like what you're going through. It is also a skill that can't be overvalued in a society where people do not see the value of education and are not interested in being engaged. So, it's clear to me that teacher preparation for the classroom should be exactly that, teacher education, or teaching people to be teachers. It is better to teach ourselves how to teach and how to learn for themselves than it is to teach them a finite amount of information that is quickly outdated. Teachers need to be cutting-edge thinkers and learners, instructional designers, child advocates, activists, politicians, and motivational speakers. Many have these qualities naturally, but teacher education programs can and should aim to cultivate them in the next generation of educators. So, go out there, begin your last phase of student teaching, and make a difference in someone's life.